Alright, so it was requested for me to do a quick video here about how to change your brake fluid, basically. This isn't a full bleed. My brakes actually don't need to be bled, so I'm going to try to waste as little amount of fluid as possible, but this is the brake fluid I use. It's a Motul 600, RBF 600. It's my opinion that that's the only one you should run in a handbrake. You're going to need some type of container to catch your nasty old brake fluid. That's like half full. You're going to need a 8mm, or some of them are 10mm. Some of the Brembo for the master cylinders are 11. So just make sure you get the right size for your bleeder screws. I'm just going to be using an 8mm today. And then you'll want some type of clear hosing, something that you can actually see through. This says it's 1/4 inch, but I don't know the inner diameter, so it's going to be a little bit tighter than 1/4 inch. Will be about perfect, but make sure it's flexible. This stuff's starting to harden up on me, so might have to cut it till it's a little bit softer. So I'll probably do that real quick. So give me a second. Alright, so we're back. I went ahead and just cut it so it's nice and soft. So what we're going to do, let me go ahead and position the camera a little bit better. Alright, so our bleeder screw is right here. So what we're going to do is we're going to place our hose on top of this bleeder screw, just like that. And then we're going to actually drape this up and over, and I'm going to use the rear set here. I'll show you this in just a second. So I'm over the sub cage here, and I'm going to take our empty bottle and let it drain right into our empty bottle, just like that. So let me show you. So bleeder screw, straight out of the bleeder screw up to the sub cage, and then down into our extra bottle there. So we're gonna zoom you out here, so hopefully you can see the whole bike, roughly. So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to squeeze the master cylinder a couple times while opening this bleeder screw. And the easiest way I found to do it, by yourself on a big bike, so what I do is on a big bike is I get some type of string and I tie it around my master cylinder. Just not super tight, nothing crazy. Just like a quick little knot. That's around my lever. And then I'm just about to hold this for a second. Alright, so what we have is I have a string right here, and it's going around my handlebar and attached to this. So as I pull this string, it's going to pull my master cylinder out. So turn the bars a little bit. It's going to pull my master cylinder for me. So then I come down here to the caliper, and I'm going to pull, see if I can do this while holding this camera. So I'm going to pull this string while breaking this bleeder screw loose. Okay, so give me just 1 second, see if you can see. I'm pulling the string, which is pulling the master cylinder, and then open the bleeder, you'll see fluid come up. Keep pulling the string and close it up. Okay, so I've basically got fluid started in this line. And see how it's going up and away from the master or from the caliper? That means that no matter what, if there's an air bubble that comes out of the caliper, it's going to float up the line and not go back into the system. I need to... Okay. So, that's basically what you want, is a little bit of fluid up into the line. As long as it's holding a seal, what I do is I actually break this loose again without pulling the master at all. Okay? And then I'll come up top here. I'll open my reservoir cap up. I got this sweet, like, I can pivot these on the screws mod. Go ahead and take your RBF 600 and top off your fluid here without spilling it everywhere, which is like I am doing. Okay, and then since that bleeder screw's open, we're just gonna sit here and slowly pump this master cylinder. You can see the fluid level in the reservoir getting low. And before you run out, or getting really low here, before you run out, you want to stop, because it will suck in air, and we want to keep air out. So we're going to pour some more brake fluid in there. And what I want to show you is happening is on the caliper side, all the fluid is actually raising, going all the way up here, and then you can see the hose is empty from this point on, where it's draining into our bucket, basically. So we're just pumping fluid straight through the system, and you can see a little air bubble came out right there. See the little guy? See if the camera will focus on it. We got a little air bubble traveling up there. So basically, you just want to keep doing this, and what I'm doing is I'm pulling the string, so it's pumping fluid through the system. And I'm actually going to stop there, but you would do that until you get no more air bubbles, and make sure that your fluid level does not get low. At least empty. Make sure it doesn't go empty. And then you want to top off your reservoir again. I got a little bit too much in there, so I'm going to let some out. I like to keep air bubbles into my reservoirs so that the fluid has a space to expand and you don't get brake fade. That's my theory on it, at least. So I'm going to top that off. We're going to come down here, back down to the caliper, and we're going to close it. So we'll close our bleeder screw down here. And you don't want to go crazy tight with those, just snug them up. Then I always come up here and I squeeze the master cylinder a few times just to make sure we have good pressure. And then once we're good on that, check your fluid level, make sure your fluid level is good, and put your cap back on. And then that's pretty much it. That's how I would go about changing the fluid in my handbrake. If you wanted to bleed the master cylinder, you can do that at any, you can do that before or after. I suggest doing that after, because if there are any air bubbles, they normally rise to the top of the system and sit right inside the master, which should be the bleeder. This is a right hand side flipped upside down, so if I was going to bleed this, I would have to rotate this to the bleeder screw, this bleeder screw right here. See if I can get the camera to focus on it. this bleeder screw was actually facing up, so I would actually be squeezing, like the master would have to be turned up here and be squeezing in. So I don't normally bleed my master that much unless it's unless I take stuff off, like if I change calipers or brake lines or break something, then I'll actually bleed it fully all the way up here. But just change the brake fluid after such amount of time, that's literally all I do. I hope that's helpful to a lot of people. I know a lot of people have questions about it and struggle to do it by themselves, but I pretty much just did it while holding the camera the whole time. I forgot about the little piece of string. It could be string, it could be wire, it could be really anything. Just to help you pull that master cylinder up there. And then all I'm going to do is I'm going to take this, squeeze this as I pull it off so it doesn't leak. Hold it up here, let go, let all the fluid drain all the way down, and then I just leave it just like that because that's what I do with my brake fluid. Stays on that and gets thrown into the trash can. But which isn't the right thing to do. But that's essentially all we're gonna do. Hopefully that's quick and easy and a good demonstration on how to do it. You're probably gonna have to fill up your reservoir probably 3 or 4, maybe 5 times to get all the old fluid out. However, if you haven't changed it in a long time, using the clear hose will allow you to see the color change. So you'll see it looking really dark, and then all of a sudden it looks nice and brand new. So hopefully that helps. Oh, as a side note, this process is exactly the same for your front brakes, except you can actually squeeze the master. And it's the same process on the groms. See, this one's actually a left-hand side, but it doesn't have a bleeder screw because it's been broken off. But what you can do is you can actually crack the banjos to bleed these. It just makes a mess and it's kind of a pain in the ass, and a lot of times you let air into it. So, but exact same process on these groms, which there's your bleeder screw on the P34. Just make sure it's sticking, it's higher than your brake line. So as long as it's higher than your brake line, you can bleed it. If it's not, like say your bleeder screws at the bottom, you'll want to take your caliper off and somehow mount it and use like a spare rotor. So you could like take this rotor here and mount it like here or something, and then take your caliper, put it onto this rotor, and then bleed it on this rotor up here. What that allow you to do is put the bleeder screw or the bleeder screw higher than the brake line, which will actually allow air out. If you don't do that, a lot of times you'll retain air inside the caliper. But if your setup's anything like this, you're absolutely fine. You don't have to take anything off. If your setup, I don't know if I see one. Let's see about this one. Nope. So I don't have a setup that's not correct, but if I was going to run another caliper, say down here, and it was upside down, what I would do is I would take it off to bleed it. So hopefully that explains it and makes sense, and I didn't do too shitty of a job. If I did do a shitty job, tell me and I'll re-record it and make a point to cover whatever topics I've messed up on. So hopefully that helps. Bye.